Good afternoon, everyone. I'm so sorry that I couldn't be there in person. Just wasn't sure how that ETA worked and whether that would cover my speaking at the conference. Given everything that's going on today with our jobs and our just the whole economic conditions. I think we all need to think not only what are we doing today, but what are we going to be doing in the future? So I want to talk a little bit about the testers of the future. Now, oh, there we go. Okay. So, the one thing that we always have to think of is change. There will always be change, present, future. And then from there, we have to redefine our limits. So we're going to talk about what it's going to take to do that. We're going to start by looking how our profession has responded to change. And we'll look at some of the big developments in our profession. And other speakers have spoken about some of these today, including the AI, the QE, after we look at how we as a profession have responded to those things, then we'll talk a little bit about how are we going to take that to the future? How are we going to determine our own directions? We'll look at some of the skills that we need, and hint, hint, we already have them, but we need to build on them. And then we'll look at how we can actually become the testers of the future. And one of the biggest things I've found, and I think a lot of the speakers again mentioned this, is we have to communicate, we have to collaborate. We have testing is a social activity, so that theme will run throughout this presentation. So let's talk a bit about how we've responded to changes. Well, we had Agile and now DevOps. Agile had the short iterations, the minimum viable product, small teams. We had to increase velocity and speed to market. And just about when we thought we got that down, then we moved on to DevOps. We have to eliminate the silos that merge development and operations. We started to work with continuous integration and automated pipelines. And most importantly, we had the continuous collaboration of the teams. Now, when it, what was our challenge here? If we can break that down to one challenge, it was developing the ways of delivering small increments of high quality work, as well as finding our role there in DevOps. So what was our response? Well, we implemented continuous testing. We implemented Lisa Crispin's 4 quadrants. We expanded we expanded our skill sets. And here we go, JIT. We expanded our mindsets so that we become Agile and DevOps team members. And most importantly, we became the champions and managers of the quality process. And in that way, testing became a social activity. So let's look at AI. Well, Murat talked about AI. Other speakers have talked about AI. AI is here to stay, guys. And AI makes decisions based on learned knowledge. And so what does that mean? That means we have to train it as well as test it. And what does that do to our collaborative effort? Now we're not only just collaborating with developers and other testers and product owners, we're also working with the data scientists. What's our challenge here? Our challenge is revamping, retrofitting our whole test process to include that training, to plan the training, the data selection. We not only have to realize now, when we select the data, we not only have to make sure it's the right data, but we also have to make sure it isn't biased. We have to analyze those results. And the thing with training results, which is a shift in our thinking processes, actual results don't actually match expected all the time. There again, This is about retrofitting our approaches and our skill sets. So how do we respond to this? Well, we implemented the database training as a part of our test cycles. We have to recognize that results can be good enough, and we have to figure out a way of deciding how results are good enough or not. We have to test with large amounts of data running multiple cycles. We have to be ready to throw it all out and start over if we find bias or very big differences in what we might have expected. We have to embrace the testing with the devs, with the data scientists. We have to embrace it as a social activity. Quality engineering. Well, Jit talked a little bit about this, building quality in through the product life cycle. I didn't say the test life cycle. I didn't say the software development life cycle. Product life cycle. That means both from conception of the product to through release and product sunset. It's a transformation of people, process, and tools. Now, here's why I put this one last, because it really, as much as you might want to think or say that AI is the biggest change, and you know that in some cases that certainly can be, I tend to feel that quality engineering is our biggest challenge, because now testing becomes a technique rather than a discipline. That's a big mindset change, right? And the whole entire team becomes responsible for quality. So what's our challenge? Again, we have to retrofit, guys. We have to we got to re-examine our skill sets and our mindsets to find our role in quality engineering. And our role is not just exercising our test techniques. It's managing the entire quality process. It's championing quality. It's being willing to speak up and say when the software isn't ready for production. And we'll talk more about that later. So what's our response here? Championing quality from beginning through the end of the product. Again, the social activity. We also get involved earlier and earlier and earlier. We implement the reviews, the inspections, the automated checkpoints, and even quality management techniques, especially if you're in a regulated type testing. So what's the constant among all this? Yeah, there is a constant. There really is a constant. And that's the importance of quality. That this has always been the most important part of our role. Whatever our role, whatever our title may actually be, whatever our role actually is, the importance of quality will only get even, and as we bring in some of these changes with AI and new techniques, the importance of quality is never going to go away. So what does that mean? That means our jobs will never go away, guys. They really won't. So what's the major shift here? The major shift is that team responsibility for quality, and us as the leaders of championing quality, leading the quality processes. And again, testing now becomes a social activity. So what's the impact of all of this? There's a lot of impact, you know. And when we get discouraged, I know I get discouraged sometimes. I'm sure you all do too. But give yourself some grace, because there is a big impact here. And the impact really now is that we need to bring that testing mindset and champion quality and collaboration all the way through the process. The testing mindset, the way we approach testing, the way we approach the process, we have to now share that across the entire team. So that brings us to, how do we do this? How do we How do we determine our directions? And yes, we not only can self-determine our directions, we must self-determine our directions because we need to know our own North Star. We need to know, we need to know who we are and where we are as testers. We need to take all of our skill sets and our mindsets and get and just bring that forward into this new testing approach. So how do we determine our own directions? Well, we should start with self-assessment. Self-assessment can be done in a number of ways. There are a lot of tools. We'll talk about a couple of them, but I think a lot of it is just think about it. What we need to look at our interests. We need to look at our values. Susie Welsh, she's a professor at NYU. She has a book out now, Becoming You. It's about values and her topic of values is actually um, career and self-organizing principles. It's a really good book. And she also has seminars and whatnot. So, but I think to start anyway, we can assess our skills and our interests, and then we have to assess and adjust our mindsets. So assessing our interests, well, if we just pull out your resume, look at each one of your jobs. What parts of your role do you enjoy most? What part of your role could you eliminate and why would that be? Look at jobs that you may have left. Why? Why did you leave them? That can point you, if you can see patterns there, that can point you to be something that you don't want to do again. And it's okay to not want to do something again. If you could change one thing about your role, what would you change? This can, if we can figure out what we can change, this can lead us to what's our current role and how we can improve it. What can we do to make ourselves happier? And when you're happier, you're more productive. It all comes down to what are you most passionate about? And it can help to make a vision board. Now, another way, and one of the ways of assessing our skill sets that I like is Eric Wiedendahl's T-shaped tester. That's the T-shaped theory is an approach that we can assess skill sets based on deep knowledge versus broad, more contextual knowledge. I think that this is important for QA because our roles are based on both deep knowledge and contextual knowledge. And this model can certainly be a way of assessing our skills to determine what types of roles, what's our areas of focus, what might we want to aspire, and what might we not want to aspire to. So let's look at the T-shaped tester. They come in all letters and sizes, but the ones we're going to focus on is the T and the I. The vertical is the specialist. The vertical is the deep knowledge. The vertical is our AI skills, our performance testing, our automation, our deep automation testing. And then the top level of skills is the horizontal pillar. And in the horizontal pillar, this is our more broad, this is our more generalist. It's our domain knowledge. It's our technology skills, our deep testing skills, and it's our soft skills, our collaboration, our communication, our curiosity, our empathy, our adaptability. And if you're a T-shaped tester, you have a balance of these skills and you have an appreciation of and the ability to work with people who are strong in the different areas. Now, when we look at this section, we can determine where we're strongest, where we're weakest, and most importantly, where those interests lie. So a T-shaped tester will be a test champion. You can be a consultant, a coach. They develop test processes and implement them. You need to be flexible, adaptive, and innovative. A test consultant needs to understand the people that they work with, both the colleagues and the customers. This is your quality engineer. Now, the I-shaped tester, these are your deep specialists. You can be a test automation specialist, a performance, security, accessibility, AI. You name it, you can be it, guys. And the I-shaped tester also, though, needs the domain experience, the soft skills. They need to be able to work with the team. So they gotta have a little thin T in there. Now, the thing about being a specialist is you're going to work really hard to keep up and remain at the top of your field. You can't just say you're an automation specialist. You can't have that same favorite tool that you use all the time. You can't. You have to be up to date so that, and especially as you move up from a specialist, become a test architecture specialist, then you have to be able to select the tools. So that's going to be really important to keep up with everything that's going on in your specialized field. Now, let's talk about mindsets. All of this is going to require adjusting. We talked about that before in that it's going to require adjusting our mindsets. And what I want to do here is talk a little bit about what actually is a mindset. It was a concept developed by Carol Dweck. She wrote Mindset, The New Psychology of Success, and they're characterized as fixed and growth. So a fixed mindset is a person that looks at their level of intelligence as, this is what I was born with, this is what I have. When that then brings them into this constantly needing to prove themselves. They're the ones that will not be able to um, work in the psychological safety area because they don't want to say anything that wouldn't make them, they always have to be right type, and that's because and they're not willing to take chances because failure is a personal reflection on their intelligence. Now we all have a bit of that in them. We all have a bit of the growth mindset, but let's talk about that now. Growth mindset, people with growth mindsets believe that their intelligence is a starting point. They can work to improve their abilities. They accept failure as a learning process. So they're more willing to actually take risks. And so you can see here, to be a stronger team player, to be more empathetic, it's important to have more of that growth mindset. So we can, we all have a little bit of both. If you find yourself leaning toward, and I think too, Carol Dweck didn't say this, but I've noticed it in myself. When I tend to lean toward the fixed mindset, it can also be something going on in my environment. So you not only need to take an interest in your environment, but look at how your mindset's affecting you. Try to be more curious. See all experiences as interesting. And again, pay attention to skills and give it a try. You may try using AI to write your tests. Try using AI to write code. Learn and practice skills. Develop your skills and realize that, yeah, it's okay to fail. You learn something, right? Now, the thing about adjusting your mindsets is it's all you got to do is put your head in the right spot and you're going to be unstoppable, guys. So let's look to the testers of the future. What are the skills that we're going to need? Now, we can't predict the future, but we can see themes. And actually, we have seen themes and how they progress. We will see going forward that these themes haven't changed much, but they've brought us into the present day profession. So I think some of the themes in the future will be flexibility, adaptability, empathy. We have to be able to walk a mile in somebody else's shoes. Sometimes literally. We have to work as the product manager. We got to take a turn being the scrum master. Things like that. We need to be curious and innovative, and we need to be critical thinkers that'll solve problems. And we need to promote that psychological safety for our teammates, whether we are the manager, whether we are a leader or not. So these testers are going to develop deep skills in our test approaches and techniques. We all need that. We're going to embrace the new trends, AI, robotics, security, codeless, no code automation, and more that we haven't even thought of. And we have to embrace this, and we have to embrace the importance and the science and truth in testing. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a bit. We may be specialists, we can be TRI, but we have to recognize the importance of the basic understanding of all of the trends. Now, PractiTest state of testing report is a really interesting. They bring it out every year, and they did some great things in 2022. And they noticed that responses, their respondents gave very important ratings to communication, API, general testing methodologies, and web testing. Well, the other day, I took a look at the state of testing report for 2025. And what are the internally relevant skills for testers, as they put it this time? Look at what's right on the top: communication, automation, functional test and scripting, API, test design. Same stuff, right? The only difference that they really made a point between 2002 and 25 is that your automation skills, they're no longer a differentiator, but they're an expected competency. All right, guys. Who are the testers of the future? Anybody wanna say who the testers of the future are?
I'm going to say I'd like to suggest something. Okay, please. Us. All of us.
All of us.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think you are. But we have some memes that we can talk about if you'll have that. There's the flexible generalist. Peter Varhol coined this term as the flexible generalist, and he believed that the flexible generalist is someone who doesn't necessarily know the answer, but who can very quickly find the answer, even if it's not in their area of expertise, and can apply it to the problem at hand. This is the critical thinking. The thing is, you have to realize that flexibility does rely on expertise. That's why the T-shaped tester has that I pillar, right? But when you go to an expert's going to have the right answers, but not be as expert as applying it to the problem at hand. And you do, sometimes you'll find your experts, if everything looks like, if all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. So do remember that there is a symbiotic relationship between expertise and flexibility. Now, there's another, the truth-seeking negotiator. Michael Bolton. I'm sure you all know of Michael Bolton. I was speaking at CTEST in 2022. He coined that term. Sometimes, and he pointed out the testers seek truth about the software. There again, that's a timeless thing, right? We'll always seek truth about the software, whether we're testing, whether we're championing the process. And sometimes that's going to involve having that psychological safety to negotiate for more time and resources to get to the truth. The truth-seeking negotiator has to have honesty and integrity. That again, timeless. And that's something that we absolutely need, because in this way, the tester of the future is going to champion the customer, and in doing so, protect their organization's reputations. Personally, I believe that right there is and will always be our main role. Now, Joel and Lalit of the PractiTest, I wish they would have put this in their test report in 2025, because I still believe it is very, very valid. They called the tester a Swiss Army knife because they believe that we need a combination of skills that we can pull out of our toolkit to deal with whatever challenge is being thrown at us.
Sorry?
And for this, there again, we need the T-shaped tester. We need to have a growth mindset. We need to have the psychological safety to speak up. We need to feel that we can say what we have to say, and we have to have that honesty and integrity to do it. So who's the tester of the future? It is all of us. Our titles could reflect tester, QA, QE, data scientist, program manager, developer, but it can be any discipline. AI specialist, a discipline we may not even have thought of at this point. But by applying our testing skills and our mindsets to whatever role we're embracing, we will be the champions of quality and the customers. And we'll do that in everything we do. So we are the testers of the future. And at this point, I'd like to wish each and every one of you the joy that comes from knowing yourself and doing what you do best. Please choose the path that suits your skill sets and your expertise. And more importantly, your personality best, because that will bring out your values and you'll be great at it and you'll be happy. I wish you peace. The future is ours, and we have only to choose our path. And that path is the way that we can contribute and find joy best. And I'd like to leave you with this. Open your mind to the possibilities that may be hiding behind the inconvenience of change. Change will always be a constant, and we need to embrace it. Thank you. And here's a bunch of references.